Hey, Birchouse friends, welcome back. I know it's not our typical Wednesday, hey, Birchouse, it's Thursday, um, but I had a custom order that I really wanted to finish the work on, and so I spent all of Wednesday working on the custom order, and you're getting a hey, Birchouse today. But fret not, we'll be back to our normal Wednesday, hey, Birchouse next week. But that brings us to today's question, which comes from Kozak Cat, who asks, hey, Birchhouse, what is the best wood for building shields? Um, and that is an excellent question. One we can kind of take one of two ways, which is literally what is the best wood for shield building, or what is the best wood to build a historically accurate or period accurate shield? Um, and so I'm going to answer the latter first because I want to talk a little bit about shield building, what materials they used, and why they used them. So let's talk about shields just a little bit. So shields, and we're going to speak largely about European shields in this video. Shields from the migration era all the way up until even the tar shields, bringing us into the 1600s, early 1700s. The Roman scutum, a large portion of shields, a very large portion of shields, all throughout European history, are made with butted planks, meaning planks just glued end to end. And if you think about that for a moment, that doesn't sound like a very sturdy shield because you're just gluing the planks end to end. There's nothing really holding those planks other than a thin line of glue. We don't find a lot. There are a few examples, but we don't find a lot of shields that have dovetail joints that lock together. And I believe the reason for that is that shields are largely disposable. Whether or not you have a nicely glued and jointed shield or a shield that is just butted planks together, you are still deflecting things like swords and axes and spears and halberds. You're deflecting a lot of weaponry coming in at you. And wood is wood, and bladed weapons are going to chip away and cause abuse to the shield. And so shields are largely considered disposable. They're going to last a battle, maybe two, maybe three. But eventually, those shields are going to need to be replaced. And when you are trying to make shields for a raiding party or an army, you're going to spend as little time as possible to make your time as efficient as possible to make as many shields as possible. And so taking the time to do something like a dovetail joint on something that's going to be disposable and broken apart anyway just doesn't make a ton of sense. So that's how shields are constructed. And we found that the majority of these shields are made from things like spruce and pine and fir. We have found shields made from linden or lime, as they call it in England. Things like poplar and birch have been found. And these are relatively what you might call low quality or cheap woods. And I'm using heavy quotations on that. So why these woods? Well, two things. One, if you have a society, you're going to use your higher quality woods on things like castle building, on house building, building animal pens, building ships, and then also the thousands of little bits of minutia that human beings need to use on a day-to-day basis. You're going to use your high-quality woods on things that are going to get used. And then you're going to use your quote-unquote lower-quality woods on things that are going to be disposable. And in that list are, like we said before, shields. You're going to use on things that are going to be disposable anyway. The other thing is you're going to build from what's around you. If you have a lot of spruce trees growing in the area, you're going to build spruce shields. If you have a lot of poplar in the area, you're going to build poplar shields. So you're going to use what's in the area. You're going to use your best materials on the things you're going to use every day, and your quote-unquote lower materials on things that are going to be disposable. So if you're wanting to build yourself a kite shield or a heater shield or a Viking shield, and you're wanting to build it historically accurate, you're going to build it from things like spruce and pine and fir, or poplar, birch if you want to make something really nice. And then you can find that sturdiness in putting on like a rawhide edge, or doing a layer of linen or leather or canvas to keep it all together. If you've watched any of our previous destruction tests, you can see those shields, despite the fact they're made from, we use Douglas fir in a large chunk of our shield building. You can see they hold up pretty well, even with budded planks and made from Douglas fir. So, what if you want to build a shield with modern sensibilities using whatever wood you want? What would be the best wood? Well, there are two things to consider. One is it crack resistant or split resistant? Remember, again, we're using our shields to deflect weaponry. And you're going to want something that will resist splitting and cracking for obvious reasons. The other issue we want to talk about is weight. So I have here a Viking shield. This is one of our Gen 3 Viking shields, and it's made from Douglas fir. And this one is in the dimensions of the Trelleborg shield. So it is 8.5 millimeters thick. It is 33.3 inches in diameter, or 33.3, I think, in diameter. And it, at that size, it weighs 6 pounds. And while that's not super heavy, 6 pounds isn't much, you're also only holding it with one hand. It's all that weight's being supported with one hand. And that 6 pounds begins to feel like 12 or 15 or 20 after several minutes of holding it. While you're holding it up, that weight gets heavier and heavier on that arm. And so we want to keep an eye on the weight of the shield. My very earliest shields were way thick and super heavy. They were absolute monstrosities, and they were terrible to hold for even more than a minute or two. In the last couple years, we've gotten these down to a very period accurate dimensions. And even at those period accurate dimensions, they're still very heavy, and they get heavier the longer you hold them. So you want something that is lightweight. So we're looking for a lightweight wood that is crack or split resistant. And by my estimation, I would say something like a redwood or something like white oak would be kind of fit the bill. I think those are two woods that really find that nice balance between weight and durability. So those are two good woods if you're wanting to make a medieval shield with modern sensibilities, modern woods. That was an excellent question. Let's talk about a lot of different things. So thank you so much for asking. If you ever have a question for Birchouse, comment below with "Hey Birchouse, ask," and we'll answer in a future video. In the meantime, we'll see you all next Wednesday.